Welcome to WLX News Now at 10. I'm Mackenzie Martin. We received audio from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources on Friday related to the Nolan Wells case.
40 days. One sentence. On the 13th of August, in front of a room full of journalists in Atlanta, Christine Wansley said, "The only thing they want to know is what happened to their son," per the Griot. Not a name, not an arrest. What happened? So this video does something simple and uncomfortable. It takes that one question and holds every document in this case up against it. The autopsies, the GPS, the call, the phone that has not been opened. And at the end, an honest count of how much of her question the public record can actually answer today. So let's put the official record on a table, and we're going to count, out loud, what it actually has. The state autopsy. It was completed by July 31st, per Purcell. Its findings were not published, and they are going to a grand jury. That is the official examination of Nolan Wells' body, and the public is not allowed to see what it says. The family's independent autopsy went a different direction. Per ABC News and CNN, that examination returned a cause and manner of death of undetermined pending investigation. The examiners could not establish a cause, not yet. There is the GPS. State marine data obtained by CBS News shows the boat clear of the island at approximately 4:31 that afternoon. The boat left Horn Island at 4:31, per that same data from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. And there is the window. Outside, a band running from 23 past 3 to 27 past 4, nobody has confirmed a sighting, per the United Cajun Navy report via TMZ. That is documented in a report from the United Cajun Navy, a volunteer organization, not law enforcement, and per TMZ, its report is not an official finding. So you have a sighting window that ends at 4:27, and you have a boat that leaves at 4:31, 4 minutes apart. Now add the interviews. Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter told WAX his office has spoken with more than 60 witnesses. Federal ownership of the island opened the door to federal digital help. Investigators have spoken with all 3 of the young men who were aboard. Those friends have not been charged. The charge column in this case is still N. Neither the county nor the Bureau has closed anything. And then there is the phone. Nolan Wells' phone had not yet been reviewed by investigators, according to GCWire and TMZ. The family's attorney says a joint examination is agreed upon, but it is not scheduled. 2 sets of lawyers agreed to open it together. They have not picked a date. So here is your confirmed record. It is short. An autopsy locked away. An autopsy that says undetermined. A GPS point. A 64-minute window. 60-plus witnesses. A phone nobody has opened. That is what the official record can confirm. And against the question Christine Wansley asked in Atlanta, "What happened to our son?" that record answers almost nothing. But there is one more thing in the public record. It is not a document. It is a warning. And it came from the state's own public safety commissioner, who said a purported toxicology report circulating on social media is fraudulent, per the Mississippi Department of Public Safety via WLBT. That warning matters. Not because it proves anything about what happened on that boat, but because it tells you something about the gap between what the record actually contains and what people are saying it contains. So the question becomes, if the official record is this thin, where is everyone getting their certainties from? That is the next thing we have to look at. The pieces of this case that are not in the official record, and how much they actually hold. So what is actually out there? What is circulating that the record cannot confirm? Start with the toxicology report. A document surfaced on social media claiming to be Nolan Wells' toxicology results. It spread. People treated it as fact. Then Mississippi Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tyndall stepped in, per WLBT, and called it fraudulent. Not inaccurate, not outdated, fraudulent, a fake. The state had to issue a warning about a piece of paper nobody in authority had released. That is the pattern of this case. Documents appear, certainty follows, verification does not. There is also the audio, an enhanced recording reportedly circulating online, allegedly capturing something from the boat. Attorney Russell Latino, who represents one of the young men who was on the trip, told News Nation it has no legitimacy. A doctored file paired with a fake transcript per TMZ and News Nation. Whether that characterization is accurate is not something the public record settles. What the record shows is that the state's own officials warned against social media speculation, per Newsweek, saying it could hinder the investigation. And then there are the threats. The three who went with him say threats and harassment keep arriving, per ABC News, WWL, and The Grio. One friend's attorney has sent a cease and desist letter. That letter, per those same sources, alleges false and defamatory statements, including, as reported, sharing images of a family's home and their residential address. Think about what that means. People have decided without a charge, without a trial, without the autopsy even being released, who is responsible, and they have acted on that certainty. Threats aimed at those who were beside him and at officials on the file are under federal review, per Live Now from Fox. Step back and count what is unverified. A toxicology report the state calls fraudulent. An audio file a lawyer calls doctored. A wave of online speculation Mississippi officials explicitly warned against. And threats. Documented, reported, and now the subject of a federal investigation. None of that tells you what happened on July 4th. All of it tells you what happens when a gap in the record gets filled with noise. Here is the thing about the threats, though. They are the one piece of this case that is fully confirmed. Not the audio, not the toxicology. The threats, multiple sources, multiple outlets, and a federal agency investigating. That is real. That is documented. So the record contains two kinds of things: official findings, the autopsies, the GPS data, the witness interviews, and the public's reaction to the absence of findings. The reaction has produced a paper trail of its own, and some of that paper trail is now evidence in a federal investigation, which means the question Christine Wansley asked in Atlanta, "What happened to our son?" has been partially answered in an unexpected way. Not with facts about the boat, but with facts about what people have done in the absence of those facts. The threats are real, the harassment is real, the cease and desist is real, and the FBI is treating them as a crime. That is documented. That is confirmed. And it tells you something about where this case actually stands, that the most complete part of the record is not about Nolan Wells' death. It is about what happened after. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If the most investigated piece of this case is the threats, not the death itself, then what does that say about everything else? What does it say about the autopsy, the timeline, the phone, the 4 minutes between the sighting window and the boat leaving the island? The next part of the record is the hardest to read, because it is not about what people did, it is about what the official process has not produced. And the silence there is not empty. It is structural. The fraudulent toxicology report is the cleanest example of how this case got mixed, because it did not start as a rumor. It started as a document. A piece of paper with lab letterhead, numbers, a conclusion, and it spread exactly the way real documents spread. Screenshots, reposts, a caption that said, "Finally the truth." Mississippi Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tindell called it fraudulent, per the Department of Public Safety via WLBT. The state's own public safety official, standing in front of a microphone, saying this paper is not real. And still, the paper kept moving, because by the time the correction arrived, the image was already in 10,000 feeds. The correction does not travel as fast as the accusation. It never does. Now take the audio. A recording surfaced online, presented as the moment everything went wrong. A lawyer for one of the young men on the trip told News Nation there is no legitimacy to it. Doctored audio, he said, paired with a fake transcript. But the clip had already been played, dissected, and narrated over by people who had never met anyone involved. The clip had already become evidence in the public's mind. The denial arrived after the verdict. Here is the pattern. A document appears. It looks official. It gets shared by someone with a following. It gets picked up by a reaction channel, it gets summarized in a comment section, and by the time a reporter calls the state, the document has already done its work. The correction is a footnote. The accusation was the headline. Mississippi officials warned about this, per Newsweek. They urged the public not to rush to conclusions. The concern they named was interference, noise online slowing the process. That warning was not abstract. It was describing a machine already running, a machine that produces certainty from absence. And the machine has a target. The three friends who were on the boat, they have reported death threats and online harassment, per WWL, The Grio, and ABC News. One friend's attorney has sent a cease and desist letter. The people who went out that day are now the subject of threats the FBI is examining, per Live Now from Fox. Think about the sequence. A boy disappears. The record is incomplete. The autopsy is sealed. The timeline has a gap, and into that gap pours documents. Some real, some fabricated, all presented with the same confidence. The toxicology report that the state calls fraudulent. The audio that a lawyer calls doctored. The threats that followed. The threats are the one thing that is fully confirmed. Multiple sources, multiple outlets. A federal agency investigating. That is not speculation. That is documented. And it is the direct result of the mixing, the moment when a fake document and a real grief became indistinguishable in the public feed. The threats are real. The harassment is real. The cease and desist is real. And the FBI is treating them as a crime. So strip it all away. The fraudulent toxicology report, the audio an attorney called doctored, the accusations that never carry a name. Strip all of it, and what we have left is a short list of confirmed facts. The list is not empty, and read honestly, it implies something specific. Start with the timeline. First confirmed number, someone last verified seeing Nolan Wells at some point between 3:23 and 4:27 that afternoon. Per the United Cajun Navy report, a volunteer document, not an official finding, via TMZ. The window itself is 64 minutes. Second number. State GPS data obtained by CBS News puts the boat clear of Horn Island at about 4:31. The gap between the last verified sighting and the boat leaving the island is somewhere between 4 minutes and 68 minutes. The confirmed set cannot tell you which, 3:23, 4:27, any minute between. But it can tell you where the unknown lives, not across days, minutes, bounded by a sighting on one side, a boat leaving the island on the other. Now the autopsies. The state examination was completed by July 31st, per 4 WLBT. Nothing from it has been published. It goes to a closed jury room instead. The family's independent examination returned a cause and manner of death of undetermined pending investigation, per ABC News and CNN. 2 examinations, one sealed, one undetermined. That is the confirmed set on the central question, how Nolan Wells died. The state has finished. The family's examiners answered, not yet. Undetermined is not a verdict. It is a status. The evidence, examined so far, did not answer the question. Then there is the phone. Nolan Wells's phone had not yet been reviewed by investigators, per GCWire and TMZ. The family's attorney says a joint examination is agreed. Both sides will go through it together, but it is unscheduled. Read that again. Agreed. Not done. The most direct digital record of that afternoon is waiting for a date. The confirmed set implies the case is waiting on this. Not stalled. Waiting. Now the people. The Jackson County Sheriff says his office has interviewed more than 60 witnesses, per Sublox. Federal ownership of the island opened the door to federal digital help, and the 3 friends who were on the boat, interviewed, per the sheriff. The confirmed set records that the interviews happened, not what was said. And the people who were on that boat have reported death threats and online harassment, per WWL, The Grio, and ABC News. One friend's attorney has sent a cease and desist letter. The people who went out that day are now the subject of threats the FBI is examining, per Live Now from Fox. So what does the confirmed set alone imply? Not what happened. It cannot reach that far. But it implies where the answer will come from, and when. 3 places. The window between the sighting and the boat's departure, bounded, not filled. The phone, agreed, not opened. And the grand jury, which will receive the state autopsy, per Fork findings no reporter has seen. Only one of those 3 has a destination, the grand jury. The other 2 are still waiting. And the officials are asking for patience. The request from officials, through Newsweek, was simple. Do not decide yet. The Public Safety Commissioner, Sean Tyndall, called a purported toxicology report fraudulent. Per WLBT, official position, on the record, at least one document circulating as evidence is not real. Put that in the confirmed set too. So here is the honest summary. The phone is unopened. The autopsy is sealed. The last verified sighting is a window, not a moment. And the charge column over this death is still blank. Per CNN, NPR, and NOLA.com. The case is mid-process. The public asks on the internet's timeline. The record does not, it lives on the grand jury's timeline. The labs, the sheriffs. And that is where the confirmed set runs out. It can tell you the boundaries, not what is inside them. The woman who stood on that panel in Atlanta asked for one thing, to know what happened to her son, per the griot, and that one thing is the one thing the record has not yet produced. Let's put the request next to the record, the way the Wansleys put themselves next to each other on that Atlanta panel. Christine Wansley said the words herself, at the NABJ convention on August 13th, per the griot, "The only thing we want to know is what happened. That's all we want to know is what happened to our son. Not a charge, not a confession, not a suspect's name, a sentence about a son." So what can the confirmed record answer? Start with the schedule. Outside a band running from 23 past 3 to 27 past 4, nobody has confirmed a sighting, per the United Cajun Navy report via TMZ. State Marine GPS data puts the boat clear of Horn Island at approximately 4:31, per CBS News. WLBT put the completion date at the 31st of July. The family paid for an answer and received an open one, per CNN and ABC News. Those are dates, edges, a schedule of a tragedy. But what happened is not a schedule. The open questions sit inside those edges. What happened between the last sighting and the boat's departure? The record gives you two boundaries, not the middle. 3:23 to 4:27, 4:31. Verified is not explained. The state autopsy is a third. Its findings have not been published and are going to a grand jury, per WLBT. So there is an answer in the file, but no one outside the courtroom has read it. The family paid for an answer and received an open one, per CNN and ABC News. It is a placeholder. Then there are the people. The Jackson County Sheriff says his office has interviewed more than 60 witnesses, per Salux, including the 3 friends who were on the boat. But the record says the interviews happened, not what they produced. Those friends have reported death threats and online harassment, per Salog, WWL, The Griot, and ABC News. One friend's attorney has sent a cease and desist letter. The people who went out that day are now the subject of threats the FBI is examining, per Leave Now from Fox. That is pressure on the people closest to the hours in question. It is not evidence against them, but it is part of the record. And the record includes what it is not. A purported toxicology report circulating on social media is fraudulent, according to Mississippi Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tyndall, per WLBT. The request from officials, through Newsweek, was simple: do not decide yet. The charge column in this case is still 1. So measure it again. The record can answer when the boat moved, when the last verified sighting ended, when the autopsies were finished. It can answer what officials have said and what they have warned against. It cannot answer what Christine Wansley asked for. The window is not filled, the phone is not opened, the autopsy is not public, the interviews have not produced a public account. The question from Atlanta, what happened to our son, is still open, not because the investigation is failing, because it is incomplete. Those are different things. So let us do the arithmetic. Her question deserves, honestly, one document at a time. The state autopsy. It is finished, per WLBT, and nobody outside the process has read it. It might answer her question completely. Today it answers nothing, because it has not been published, and it is not going to be published before a grand jury sees it. The independent autopsy. This one she paid for, and it came back undetermined pending investigation, per ABC News and CNN. That is not a partial answer. It is an examiner saying, on the record, that what was in front of them did not settle the question. The GPS, state marine data, obtained by CBS News, fixes the boat leaving at about 4:31. That tells her when a vessel moved. It does not tell her anything about her son. The verified window. Independent confirmation runs from 323 to 427 and stops, per TMZ. That is the shape of the hole rather than anything inside it. The interviews. More than 60 of them, per the sheriff. None of what was said in them has been made public. The phone. Still unopened, per GCWire, with a joint examination agreed and unscheduled, per TMZ. Added up and the count is uncomfortable. 6 things that could bear on what happened to Nolan Wells, and on the 14th of August not one of them has been published in a form that answers his mother's question. That is not the same as saying nothing is being done. More than 60 interviews is work. A sealed examination is work. A grand jury is work. It is only to say that the work has not yet produced the one sentence she asked for in Atlanta. And the honest thing to say about that sentence is that it does not exist yet. Not in a document anyone has read, not in a statement anyone has given, and not in any of the confident versions circulating online, which are drawn from the same empty record everybody else is looking at. There is one more thing worth saying plainly, because it is the part the internet keeps getting wrong about grieving families. Asking what happened is not the same as accusing anyone. Christine Wansley did not stand in Atlanta and name a person. She named a question. The letter that went to the Attorney General on the same day asks whether a federal review is warranted, which is also a question, not a finding, per ABC News. Everything in this case that has actually been established is small, and everything that is large is still open. That gap is where the speculation lives, and it is the reason officials asked the public, through Newsweek, to stop filling it in. Christine Wansley stood on that panel in Atlanta with attorney Ben Crump and Reverend Al Sharpton, discussing the hours after Nolan's disappearance, per the Griot and WXXV. She did not ask for punishment, she asked for a fact. The only thing we want to know is what happened. That is still the whole ask. And until the record answers it, the most accurate thing we can say about this case is also the simplest. His mother is still waiting.